Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning and welcome to Confucius Suitcase, the China EU Freight Train After COVID-19 webinar. We are organizing with the patronage of the European Chamber of Commerce South China chapter, meaning the historical province of Guangdong. My name is Alexio Pico. I'm the managing director of the Circle Group, and I have the pleasure this morning to have some experts in the field to discuss about the freight train after COVID-19. What we have learned in this period, that things are changing quite fast in this situation, and it could be exactly the same for whatever is related to the train connection with the Far East. So every day there is something new, and in order to take our, let's say, audience updated with this news, we decided to set up this webinar together with the European Chamber of Commerce, South China chapter, and also with a real expert in the field, that is my colleague Cinzia Pasquale, that I'm going to introduce later on. So just a couple of words how the coffee talk is organized today. Okay, this is the introduction by myself. We have a little bit later the greetings and welcome. We have an introduction of a little video about the European Chamber South China chapter, and also greetings from Francine Etzitiriou, that is the general manager of the European Chamber South China chapter. Then we have a little bit of a poll that we want you we want to know from you a little bit of your understanding and experience on the topic. And then we have the core of the agenda today, the presentation of Cinzia Pasquale, that is also she is also the founder of For Success to EU. And then to finish up with a Q&A session at the end. We want to be effective as always and try to take this short in time. One methodological issue: if you have questions, we are too many to have interaction with voice. So if you have a question, please type your question inside your panel. There is a specific button to look at. This is you see here questions, and you can type your question, and we will gather all the we will try to answer if we can. So let's start. Let's move to the first part. We have a short video introduction of the European Union Chamber of Commerce, that is in a way introducing what they do and introducing the coffee talk as a whole. And so I leave my colleague in the management of the coffee talk to start this video about the European Chamber of Commerce.
再见。
Access and improved operating conditions for European companies in China. Founded in 2000 as a non-profit organization, we operate all across China and have over 1,600 members, with a core advisory council drawn from leading European companies.
The European Chamber is your platform in order to facilitate market access. We are privileged partners with the Chinese government to comment on laws, regulatory issues, and we are the ones that alert you and the rest of the world on new things coming up, such as the social credit system.
Through the Chamber, our members can make their voice heard.
This report is a wake-up call also for our governments. We see that actually they're moving in the right direction. Reform itself and get going.
Our members share their views on key emerging issues, contribute to our influential position papers, and have access to both high and working level government officials and policymakers. With our extensive and well-developed government relations, the European Chamber can secure the meetings that our members need, providing them with the opportunity to speak face-to-face with the relevant authorities in both the EU and China. The Chamber provides many opportunities for our members to deepen their understanding of the issues that impact their business in China. Thanks to our expertise and knowledge, our members have access to in-depth analysis of policy changes and long-term developments at their fingertips. We keep our members regularly updated on issues that affect them. The European Chamber is also an implementing partner for numerous EU-funded projects that provide expert advice and vital on-the-ground support for EU companies operating in China. One of the most rewarding benefits our members enjoy is a sense of community. We provide a platform for our members to meet business leaders and policymakers face to face. And connect them to opportunities and experiences at the many hundreds of chamber-organized networking events and meetings every year.
The European Chamber believes in China's ability to open up, with the crisis, and we are there to win with China.
So, to have a voice, to be informed, get connected.
So this was the video to introduce the European Union Chamber of Commerce. We have also a video message from Francine Tirioiu, that is the general manager of the European Chamber of Commerce. For different connection level, let me say we prefer to have a video message from Francine, and so that is why now I ask my colleague to launch the video from Francine, introducing the topic of the webinar.
I am the General Manager of the European Union Chamber of Commerce in China, South China chapter, and I would like to thank you very much for joining this webinar on the China-EU freight train after COVID-19 that the European Chamber South China is very pleased to support. As you have just seen in the Chamber video, one of the roles of the European Chamber is to provide business intelligence, which is mainly done through publications. And as a matter of fact, the European Chamber has published this year in January a report which is very relevant to the topic of today about the Belt and Road Initiative. The title is "The Road Less Traveled, European Involvement in China's Belt and Road Initiative." It's accessible on our website, it's for free. This report aims at better represent what the BRI means for companies, and it finds that only a few portion of European companies have been able to participate in BRI projects, while a slightly broader number have enjoyed positive effects as a result of the BRI. However, the BRI has failed to become the open, transparent, and international initiative that it often claims to be. The BRI needs competition that drives countries to demand further practices from it. And the European Chamber is eager to see Europe step up and provide it. And to conclude, I'd like to say that there is a need to further explore and exploit the synergies on the train Silk Road for the companies to further benefit from this channel.
So it's me again after this short introduction. And I've been informed by by our team that there was probably for some of you an issue of regarding the audio of the first video, the one of the chamber. So I'm sorry about that. I don't know exactly which kind of technical issue we encountered, but okay, we are going to in the follow-up to have let's say a precise link to this if you want to have a further look on this. But as far as I have understood, the second video was quite understandable, so that's fine. Fine. So we go to a poll before launching the main presentation. So please, this is the poll we set. So we want to understand from you, and you have to select only one, let's say, of the two, of course, answers. Have you ever had business relations with China? Yes or no? Just to understand a little bit how also to frame the following presentation in order to understand who are our guest attendees today. So I think we can give let's say other 10 seconds to answer, and then we can see the results, and then I will introduce Cinzia for the main part of the business today. Okay, shall we see the results? Good. So it seems that 2/3 there was already a business relation with China. So that means that we have an audience that is already acquainted in a way to do business with China, and that is a good message for you, Cinzia, for your how to, let's say, tune a little bit your following speech. Now it's the time for me to introduce Cinzia. Cinzia Pasquale is a lobbyist. She's a lobbyist and consultant for European affairs. She lives in Brussels. She's the founder of For Success to EU, which represents a Chinese freight railway operator included in the Belt and Road Initiative since 2014. For Success to EU is specialized in industrial relations at government level, including the participation in Task Force China, Italian Ministry of Economic Development, and also organizer of the official visit of the President Xi Jinping in Italy in the last March. Last but not least, she speaks very well Mandarin, but okay, for today, I hope that you are going to do it in English because otherwise we cannot understand. So the floor is yours, Cinzia, for your presentation, and you will be supported by the team for the presentation. So please, the floor is yours, Cinzia. We cannot hear you, Cinzia.
Sorry. Thank you very much, Alexia. Thank you very much, Circle Group friends and European Union Chamber, to having me today and to be your speaker for this very, very important and exciting topic on Belt and Road Initiative, especially on freight train development on the time of a pandemic, and what will be the next, what is current situation actually on the ground, and what will be the future perspective. So when I started to prepare my presentation for you today, I was thought what has been might be the best way to make it a little bit more lively and a little bit more interesting for you. So that's why you can see in my presentation some photos comes from my previous travel trip to China. And so, for example, at the beginning, I put the very well known Duzhanian irrigation system. So some of the Chinese friends already in this webinar probably have already recognized. And this, I think, it's a quite a good Thank you very much. It's quite a good starting for my presentation. So the today agenda is a little bit wide, but I try to be more concise in order to leave time for you, for your question and for your curiosity, or probably just to share your experience, because as far as I understand, some of you have already had a business or relations with China and with this fantastic civilization. So from Belt and Road to Health Silk, from China Railways platform to multimodal transport, which is actually the key success in China, and starting and finishing with the cooperation China-EU with the future perspective for European partners. Next, please. Next. Okay. So in this slide, you can see, just we would like to start with a photo. Actually, is a Shaolin, which is a martial art. And why I put this? Because as from Belt Road Initiative to Health Silk Road, okay, the way is straightforward. As you can see, Belt and Road, probably you already very well known the situation and a little bit of background and history, because you have followed a lot of video presentation or others conferences on this specific item. So I don't want to keep much attention on the first beginning. I just remind you that 2013 was the first year in which President Xi Jinping, in his speech at the University of Astana in Kazakhstan, explained the Belt and Road Initiative, IDAI-ILU. So the main goal is to boost connectivity, and bear in mind this very important data. So 4.4 billion of total population is involved in Belt and Road Initiative. Next. Okay, here you have some general map, and we will go to the next slide. Just to bear in mind the key objective. The key objective of the previous Belt and Road Initiative, that was at the beginning, was creating investment opportunity, and the result is there. The result is 82 economic zones established already inside Belt and Road. Next, please. So why we pass from Belt and Road to Health Silk Road? Here I put for you, I don't want to go through all this in detail, but the answer from the Chinese Minister of Foreign Affairs, Wang Yi, on the development on Belt and Road Initiative and on the way in which Belt and Road cope with against COVID-19. And you can go through exactly all of this press conference. I put for you the general website, which is in English, and you can follow all of this. But please bear in mind that the demand for public health cooperation is really urging and emerge some action from Chinese government. So that's why the connection is there. Is very simple at this stage to follow from Belt and Road to Health Silk Road. Next, please. Next. Okay, as I said, from official statement and follows normally action. So this I put for you the general prospect of rail freight. Actually, is the one related to train freight. So you have actually the reality and you have some prospect there. Next, please. A little bit of my personal experience on Belt and Road. As already mentioned by Alexio, actually my activity helped to boost Belt and Road Initiative in Europe, inside the European business corporate environment. And so we achieved some good results. Actually, we participate in a technical group of the DG Move at the European Commission level on the EU-China connectivity platform. We were very active cooperate as a voluntary basis, of course, this special task force China, which the Italian Minister of Economic Development put in place, especially in order to organize the first official visit of President Xi Jinping in Italy. The task force, of course, is there on a voluntary basis and on a private basis now. We still have and maintain some connection with our counterpart in China. We are partnering in some European projects, and we already work on advocacy activities for Jiangsu province. Next, please. So, according to our colleagues from rail freight, we collect here for you why the freight train is promising in time of COVID-19. Of course, I put some bullet point for you because simplified customs procedure are there, and of course shortage transit time about 12 days. This is an average, of course. Reliable cost, reliable service. Reduce human intervention, which is actually the basic moment, especially in this time, more affordable service than air freight, and of course avoid port congestions. So why is this important? Because you can never imagine how fast is the development in Belt and Road, in rail freight, in freight train service, and so that's why those are, according to our experience, the main point that gives freight train actually a kind of special position inside the Belt and Road initiatives for everywhere. Next, please. As I mentioned, actually China stresses a lot the China-Europe rail freight transport in this pandemic time, very difficult for everyone, everywhere. And so just to put you some data here from March 21st to end of April, the end pandemic supplies, you can see the number according to some official statistics, were sent to different European countries. Of course, Italy, my country, Germany, Spain, Czech Republic, and also others, very important. And I can tell you that the support of the China-Europe rail freight really makes the difference. Next, please. So, growing against the trend. This is very important. I would like to explain this slide to you because you know the very old and very famous, according to our business community service, starting from China and reaching the last point of Duisburg in Germany. Now, it is still the reality, still there, but bear in mind that there are a lot of new routes and new possibilities. So that's why I put here one of the most famous, according also to our experience, and which is the China-Europe freight train left the eastern Chinese city of Yiwu. Yiwu is in Zhejiang province. Where is Zhejiang? Zhejiang is just below Shanghai, and this train heading, please bear in mind, Vilnius, which is capital of Lithuania. So the route are always the same, so you can cover 10,146 about kilometers. You pass through Kazakhstan, of course, all China. You enter into Kyrgyz in Kazakhstan. You cross Russia, Belarus, and you arrive at the end point, which is obviously Vilnius in Lithuania. So this is a new Baltic Sea route. So please bear in mind not only the general one that you probably very well known from the media or from your experience, but also a new route. I just to quote, because when I prepare my presentation, I would like also to put some Chinese culture inside. It's a famous say, just for you to explain what is Zhejiang. Zhejiang is a very famous also together with the Jiangsu province for the beauty beauty of the place. And so you have this special Shanghyou Tiatang Xiayou Su Hang, meaning above there is heaven, below there is Suzhou and Hangzhou. So please bear in mind not only infrastructure, not only Belt and Road Initiative, but also beauty of these different provinces in China. Next, please. Okay, just at the end of this of the service, so we discover and we try to collect all the data and make the really success of our experience, and we ask also some colleagues. And for example, as I mentioned before, the train from Zhejiang province, the growth rate is of 72%, so it's double-digit growth rate. Since the end of May, we have the latest figures. The majority of the cargo transported, of course, were epidemic prevention supplies, general merchandise, and daily necessities. So we discuss together with inside our community, and of course, that's why I put this slide for you. Intermodal transport and service and the efficiency of this intermodal transport is one of the key factors. Next, please. In fact, also the European Commission starting to discover and, of course, to study the secret of this success, even and especially in this very challenging time. So here you have, remember the photo of Shaolin, so the martial art. Okay, this is the province which the Shaolin martial art comes from, Henan province, which is actually not far from Zhejiang, from Hangzhou, which is the major city, which is the capital, of course, of Zhejiang, and which is the city of the Alibaba headquarters. So that's why I'd like to put to your attention some data. Starting from 2018, you have the international logistics completely digital management. You have the integration, especially for between transport and trade. As I mentioned, the position of Henan province is not so far from Zhejiang, from all this very important hub in China, in eastern coast of China. The digital freight train paperless, of course, the online booking. And please bear in mind that, of course, all of these are in place since 2018. And just for you, the last figures, almost 6 million parcels were processed and sent from January to August 2019. Next, please. The development trend of Health Silk Road. As I mentioned, of course, Internet will play a vital role in this special time, and according to our experience, also for future. So, according to Health Silk Road, of course, pharmaceutical industry will trade more on the Internet. And so, the result of this is the demand for cold chain logistics will increase and increase. So just a conclusion from our team is that advanced cold chain logistics technology plus the integrated management tracking will be required for the future. And just why I put here a very wonderful character, which is Weiji, which is crisis, but in our opinion, it's also opportunity, because the second part of the character G is also opportunity. So bear in mind, from Belt and Road to Health Silk Road to, of course, pharmaceutical industry, and the need for more and more updated integrated management on cold chain logistics. Next, please. Some win-win scenario in China. At the beginning of pandemic, of course, the supply chain companies suffered directly for volume drop and the slow movement. That was the reality, of course. But, and again, bear in mind the previous concept I explained to you with G, crisis and opportunity. Who got the major success? According to our experience and according to the experience of our colleagues, the win-win solution would put in place from the one who already choose some multimodal solution options, arranging capacity and transport consequently, and of course using digitalization. Bear in mind that China invests about, that was the last figures, 150 billion a year in artificial intelligence. So this make absolutely the difference for the future, for the present, of course, and for the future. So, of course, if you have to arrange capacity and transport consequently, you have to be very flexible, and short-term planning is there. So I put 1 week, but it's really a reality. What's happened on the ground, what is still the situation right now. So risk management resilience is absolutely required. And of course, think different, think new route. As I mentioned before, the previous one, the general one, but also the Baltic route. And also you will see a new fantastic place. Next, please. So the cooperation between EU and China, according to rail freight, is actually starting also in 2012, in 2012, of course, from the format founded by China, encouraging by China. The format is 17 plus 1. 1 is China, of course, but 17, please put your attention, are all the member states already part of this format, meaning that there is, of course, a very good cooperation with all the member states at European Union level, but there is, because of the position, geographical position in eastern part of Europe, a very good cooperation with all of these countries. I put for you Albania, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Bulgaria, Croatia, Czech Republic, Estonia, Hungary, Latvia, Lithuania, North Macedonia, Montenegro, Poland, Romania, Serbia, and Slovakia, and Slovenia. Of course, just bear in mind, new route, new thing, wage, opportunity, possibilities. Now you have a new service, freight train from Wuhan and to Serbia. This train, full of medical products with a frequency of 1 week, and just start his service in May 2020. So the advantages of this train, again, as well as the other freight train, is the reliable service. The volume is, of course, growing, so there is a need for more train. And of course, the short transportation time, and of course, the zero personal, or almost zero, of course, personal contact. Next, please. Just to conclude, as you can see from this photo, I like this photo very much because it's a kind of ceremony for the tea in China. I had the chance to attend. This is from Hunan, from Kunming. And so when you have a ceremony of the tea, you need to have very good water, very good tea. You need to have also some slight of cakes and salty cakes. So all of this makes the very good success of this time. So just to conclude, the stabilization exactly at the same time, the stabilization of international supply chain is a key factor. As I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, China stresses a lot on this, on the using of the reliable service of China-Europe freight train. And so please bear in mind that also in the north part of China, in Inner Mongolia, in the railways department of Hirhot, you have one declaration, one inspection, and one release. So customs clearance mode is absolutely digital, efficient, reliable, and of course, helping the stabilization of the supply chain in all of these aspects. Next, please. I put here some documents, and of course, just to elaborate a little bit, because you see you have so many sources. So just I would like to underline some sources in English. You have it in Mandarin as well for those who can afford it, and on Belt and Road, on Belt and Road Initiative. And I would like on EU-China Connectivity Platform just to underline that you have, of course, official document from the European Commission with official website, and the official website of the China Mission here in Brussels, in which you can find very updated figures on COVID-19, of course, data, and you can also go through some development of Belt and Road and Health Silk Road, especially for train, but not only for train. At the end of this slide, you can see on EU medical supplies, there are some official websites from the European Commission, because at the beginning of the pandemic, also European Commission put in place the response against COVID-19, and here you have a little bit some details on public procurement, on how to join, how to reach, and just to be updated on the further development, probably for our Chinese friends, but not only, also from our European colleagues. Next, please. And of course, I will be very happy to help you and to serve you if you need any more information on specific topic on freight train. This is, of course, a general overview. And because the time today is quite limited, but of course, I'm always available to go further any kind of details or curiosity you might have. Next, please. And thank you for your attention, of course. 感谢您的关注。
Thank you very much, Cinzia. I think it was a really comprehensive presentation, taking into account, of course, the time frame we have for this kind of event. We got really a number of questions, so I would pick 2 or 3 of them in order to try to give a first answer. But as already mentioned by Cinzia, Cinzia and we are available later on to to go further in details about curiosity or facts you want to know. So the first question, I think you already answered a bit during your presentation, but the first one is about really in terms of EU-China trade, import and export balance. Which are the main impacts of COVID-19? Mainly in terms of balance, you mentioned already some new, let's say, types of trade, but globally speaking, did you see any consequences in the balance in the 2 directions or not?
Yes, thank you very much, Alex, for the question, and thank you very much for who put me through this new, of course, following up. Actually, according to our experience, of course, there is some impact, of course, and on eastbound and westbound. The question is, we try to further develop the service in order to balance as much as possible, of course, but due to this unpredictable time and during this, of course, very challenging moment, we try to do our best in order first to serve our client and our final corporate. But of course, there is room for maneuver, there is room for improvement, because actually the trade balance is one of the key factors. And if I may add as well, why the freight train is so important in China, because of course, when you develop, this is a general concept, but especially very well known in a Chinese environment, when you develop an infrastructure on railways, you develop also a development, is a double, of course, sorry, for this double concept, but the development is there. So when you start to develop some places in China or whatever during the route of Belt and Road, you start also to develop the trade, and you start also to facilitate the very balance between the two aspects.
Okay, Cinzia, thanks a lot. The second question is in a way related to that. So if you have any figures about precisely about the modal shift, meaning if there was a modal shift from air or from sea to rail due to this COVID-19 period.
Yes, thank you for question. Of course, we have a lot of figures, of course, and we can send to you also after this presentation. But basically, just for you understand that air freight had a very challenging time, much more than freight train, because of course, the end of the lockdown, the general lockdown. And so, because as I mentioned several times, with the freight train, you don't have human as much as, of course, the others. You don't have as much as human intervention as for the other way of transport. So, for example, the air freight really impact on this, according to our experience and according to our information, of course, and as well as the maritime. And I would like also to elaborate a little bit, because if you send goods via maritime, of course, you have to bear in mind not only the time for transit from Europe, for example, to China, but you have to bear in mind also the time in which you have to use if for customs and for final destination. So at the end of the day, all kind of goods just reach the final port, but is not the final destination. While with the freight train, you can reach the final destination more easily without any customs, avoiding probably any customs delays. And bear in mind that, for example, according to our experience, is also very important which kind of goods are you decided to send to China. Because if you have, for example, frozen food, the most important and the most easy way to reach China is a specific province, because it's near to Xi'an. If you have other kind of goods, you have to bear in mind which is the most suitable, the most easy, the most quick province to send, in order to have them dispatched very easily and very in a reliable way. So again, I'm not here just about yes, of course, just to underline the very importance of freight train for these last miles. So for figures specifically, we can also dispatch later on this webinar.
Thanks. The last one, in order to stick with the time we have, is are you aware of any specific health and safety measures implemented to keep the rail freight traffic running in this COVID-19 period?
Yes, again, we follow a lot of training also as an expert, or because we are working on this specific sector. And of course, the human intervention, as I mentioned, is very limited, but is still there. So of course, human prevention and human measures for the operator inside the rail freight. This is the first measure. I can assess with a lot of more information, and especially the update information. And those happen not specifically for Wuhan, which is in Hubei province, but everywhere, I can tell you, in China. So it's still there. But again, with the boosting of digitalization, with artificial intelligence as well, I know that colleagues, they have the life not very easy, of course, but very much smooth with this kind of tools. But of course, medical equipment and of course medical prevention were always there and is there at the moment, of course.
Thanks a lot, Cinzia. I think we we are short in time, so we thank you for your very in-depth presentation. And again, Cinzia will be available for in the near future for further information and investigations about this very interesting topic, because as I will let's say close as I started, in the sense that everything is changing very quickly. We learn every day what's new, not only in terms of freight, but in terms of social life or any other things in this period. And I think this
Yes.
will continue for a while. But we need to adapt ourselves, and this is to be effective and quick to react and to understand how the situation is changing is one of the winning point in each and every, let's say, business case. So we thank again the
yes,
European.
If I may.
Yeah,
Yes,
sure,
sorry, Alex.
sure.
If I may just conclude,
Sure.
yes, this is specific. Thank you very much for your conclusion, and I absolutely agree with you. And I would like also to mention that as soon as it is possible, because according to my experience is what brought to me to this level of knowledges, please go directly to China and have experience and have a look and discuss and visit these different provinces. I just mentioned Zhejiang, Jiangsu, Henan, Shanghai region. You have, and of course, Hubei. You have so different culture and so different experience that you can have it. So the best way is to go there and to speak with people, to have direct contact, and afterwards just trigger your curiosity. And of course, I wish you very successful business. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Cinzia. We close now, and we close in order to overcome a bit of the technical issue we had. We close again with the video of the European Chamber that will be the final cut of this coffee talk. So I thank again Cinzia, European Chamber, the team for the organization, and I thank of course the people attending. You will have a follow-up via email with all the presentation, video registration, and everything, and you have all the contacts to come back to us and to increase your understanding of the EU freight train situation. So thanks again, and we hope to see you in our next webinar. So thanks.
Thank you very much.
Let's go with the video, and see you next time. Bye bye.